Evening, peeps. Good evening, people. All right, let's see what there is to talk about today. There might not be a lot because we did do that long video yesterday covering quite a few different subjects. So this video could be short and sweet, peeps. But then again, this is boxing and a lot can happen in 24 hours. All right, before we get into the video, don't forget if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget as well to like and share the vids. Spread the word, peeps. Spread the words. All right, let's start with this. Canelo versus Plant pay-per-view undercard announced. This should be good. Remember, this is for all the marbles at £168. We all saw what happened at the press conference. I'm excited for this fight. If we're not going to America, and I don't think we are, unfortunately, then we will 110% be doing a live watch-along. All right, what we got on the undercard? Anthony Durrell will square off against Marcus Hernandez. 10-round co-main event. What else we got? Ray Vargas, former super bantamweight world champ, will take on Leonardo Baez, 10-rounder again. And kicking off the pay-per-view is Elvis Rodriguez. These are super lightweights. Will take on Juan Pablo Romero. That's awful. That's awful. I mean, this is one of the biggest fights of the year. This is not good. You know what? I always thought it could be this, just because they are paying Canelo and Caleb Plant a lot of money. I think it's 50 million in guarantees. Like guaranteed, you have to pay Canelo, I'm guessing, around 35 and Caleb Plant 15 guarantees. And when that happens, it means you don't really have the money to put together a good undercard. But still, this is Canelo versus Caleb Plant. You have to do better than this. I think we saw with the recent pay-per-view of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and their guarantees must be big. It must be big. It might not be 50 million, but it's not going to be too far off 50 million. Look what we got on the undercard. We got Edgar Berlanga on the undercard, right? Everyone's high on Edgar Berlanga. Look at the other fights we got. Frank Sanchez versus Efe Ajagba, Kalnaki versus Helenius. And this is what they're giving us for Canelo versus Caleb Plant. For all the marbles at 168, Canelo, you know. Nah, this is disappointing. This is disappointing. And it's going to get worse. I mean, they're going to add a couple more, but it's going to be just up-and-coming kids, right? I mean, people like 1-0, 2-0, 5-0. So this is the meat of it. That's it. That's shocking. Yeah, that's shocking. Not happy about that at all. Clarisha Shields expected to face Emma Kozin as part of the double-header with Savannah Marshall. Remember, this card goes down 11th of December. Savannah Marshall will be on it, coming off that good stoppage win. Credit to that girl, by the way, that she fought on the weekend. The girl came to fight. Girl came to win. She didn't just come for a paycheck. She was unbeaten. She's actually a welterweight coming up. Or she's actually a welterweight. If not welterweight coming up, she's campaigned most of the time at welterweight. But she gave it a go. It was quite an entertaining little scrap for as long as it lasted. But if you're trying to have a shootout with Savannah Marshall, you're going to lose. Anyway, back to it. Clarisha Shields is on the card. Savannah Marshall's on the card as well. Now, I'm sorry, why aren't they just fighting each other? Like, who didn't want to fight the other? You're both on the same card. Why not just get it on together? Like, you don't need to build this fight anymore. It's sold. We've been waiting for this matchup for the best part of 2 years. Like, I'm sure Clarisha Shields would be ready. Savannah Marshall's ready. I don't understand the idea of building it. Now, I do believe this is going to be a pay-per-view card for Sky, their first pay-per-view card under this new partnership with Wasserman and Boxer. Go for it then. Make Clarisha Shields versus Savannah Marshall. Like, I feel like we're trying to milk this too much. I'll just go for it. But anyway, it's good to see Clarisha Shields fighting on UK soil. I think that's exciting. Let's have a quick look at this person. She's fighting Emma Kozin. Never heard of her, if I'm honest with you. We are, by the way, like, this isn't, I mean, this is the new studio, but this isn't what we're doing. We are going to start filming guests over here. And I'm working with someone to have a female boxing sort of show once a week here. Just all we're going to cover is female boxing, because I do think it needs to be given a bit more, just a bit more coverage. This Emma Kozin is 21-1. The one's a draw, so she's unbeaten. It's not, I mean, not heard of her, but okay. How many knockouts? Of the 21 fights, 11 KOs. All right, I mean, decent. I mean, she's won very, very fringe world titles. When I say fringe, I mean like WIBF. I'm not joking. Women's. So no, she's won. So okay, no apologies. She's won the vacant Global Union Female World Super Middleweight title, the IBA World Super. So she's won those kind of fringe titles. But in a recent fight against Chris Namus, she won the WBF title, the IBA Association World Middleweight title, and the WBC Interim World Middleweight title. Yeah, we'll see how she gets on against Clarisha Shields, who I think's the best female boxer on the planet. I do. I know some people said Savannah after Savannah's result and Katie Taylor because of longevity, but I think Clarisha Shields is the best. But we'll see. Chris Eubank Jr. says Liam Williams is the front runner for next fight. Again, this is a bit of a U-turn. A bit. I think I said this yesterday when Chris was asked about Liam Williams a year ago. It was a case of who is he? Never heard of him. What's he done? And now it looks like he will be the opponent that Chris Eubank Jr. fights in December. I wonder what the big plan is for Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, I'm trying to think of all Sky's and Wasserman's recent signings. He probably is the biggest name. Like he's probably the one that they're hoping will be the pay-per-view attraction, the one that will do tickets, the one that we know will fill out the O2 Arena or whatever, right? I mean, that's the hope. And I still think he can tick those boxes, but he's going to need good dance partners to do that. He's not going to do that just being the main attraction himself. He isn't that big. And I don't know if he will ever become that big. He's going to need good dance partners. So I think Liam Williams makes sense for a few reasons. It makes sense because I think it's going to be an action-packed fight. I think it really will be good. Both will sell it. Liam Williams at the press conference will sell that fight. Trust me, they do not see eye to eye, these two, and I think it will be known at the press conference. So I think it's a good fight. I think Liam Williams is fringe world level, but I also think Chris Eubank's that as well. So I think it's actually a competitive fight. If he gets past Liam Williams, and I do think he will get past Liam Williams, because I just think he's got a will to win that will get him through. I don't know if he gets through on skill, but I think he gets through on strength, tenacity, punch power, punch output. I think he gets through on all those things. I'm trying to think in my head now, what are, in a very ideal world, what's the next 3 fights after that for Chris Eubank Jr.? I think the next one, if you were to get past Liam Williams, you grab the mic and you call out Billy Joe Saunders. Now, I'm not quite sure what's going on with Billy Joe. He's certainly not announced his retirement. He's given hints about retiring, but he's not said he's done yet. He did say that the one fight he would come back for is Chris Eubank Jr., right? I mean, it will do good numbers. Again, if Sky are trying to look at Chris as being their pay-per-view guy, then Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr. is quite an attractive pay-per-view fight. There's no shame in what happened to Billy Joe against Canelo. It was actually boxing well. He just got caught with a great shot and that was it. That's all she wrote. But I do think that is a very, very big pay-per-view fight in the UK. It's a very good fight. It will sell out the O2 Arena or any other arena. It doesn't do a stadium. Let's not get excited about it like that. But it's a very, very good fight. And I think it will be a very competitive fight as well. The only thing, can Billy Joe still make 160? Because I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. should be fighting at 168. I think he's too small for 168. I don't know if Billy Joe can make 160. There might have to be a catch weight in there, but there won't be no belts on the line, so why not do it as a catch weight, 164, to please both. Now, again, I'm just picturing it in an ideal world. If he were to get past Billy Joe, then what next? Well, what next has to be Gennady Golovkin. It just has to be. I think it's almost perfect timing. And again, if Sky are, on this Chris Eubank Jr. pay-per-view thing, I think you can attract Golovkin over. Again, the momentum, if Chris were to beat Liam Williams, and these are big ifs, by the way, but if he were to beat Liam Williams and then Billy Joe, there's a momentum there. There's momentum and people will get behind him. And I think people would think, okay, Golovkin's now realistic. Golovkin, by the time that fight were to roll round, fingers crossed, is still a world champion, so there's a belt on the line. Plus, he'll be 40. Now, if Chris can't beat Golovkin at 40, then he's just not that guy, unfortunately, because Chris wouldn't have beaten him when Golovkin fought Kell Brook, he wouldn't have. Golovkin would have ran through him. This is now the perfect opportunity. I don't think Golovkin's going to get the Canelo trilogy fight. I really don't. And so Golovkin really, at this point, should just be going where he can to collect as much money as he can. I do think, again, by the time that rolls round, his contract with the Zone would be up. And that's not worked out either, by the way. It's not worked out at all. Although him versus Murata potentially in Japan might do good numbers because the Zone have a good base in Japan. So that would be it. So it would be Liam Williams, Billy Joe Saunders, Gennady Golovkin for a world title fight. And look, if you were to beat Gennady Golovkin, then, I mean, there's one or two ways you go. There's two, actually. There is either Jamal Charlo or there's Demetrius Andrade. You might even be in the mix for a Canelo Alvarez fight. I know I'm thinking forward here, but I mean, he hasn't got time to waste, Chris Eubank Jr. Now, that ain't going to happen. What I've just said ain't going to happen because what really happens, you beat Liam Williams, you then have a gimme fight, and then it might be Billy Joe Saunders, and then it's a gimme. Like, that isn't going to happen, those 4 or 5 fights back to back. But why can't it happen? It should happen. Chris Eubank Jr.'s career is stalled enough. I mean, realistically, it should be Liam Williams, you get the mic, you Billy Joe Saunders, you beat Billy Joe, then, you know, you are world level. Billy Joe Saunders is a world level fight, and then it should be Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin, like I'm going too far with the likes of Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade just because they're American based, and Canelo definitely going too far. But Gennady Golovkin is one that has fought over here, and it's a name you should be able to get. You should be able to get, you really should. Again, it's pay-per-view in the UK. We all saw Gennady Golovkin come over here to fight Kell Brook because the money was right. I just hope that Sky can entice him. That's what it is. I really hope they can entice him. He's got a big fan base here as well, has Gennady Golovkin. So that would be my 4 fights for him, 4 or 5 fights for him. But look, he has to get past Liam Williams first. And again, I don't think that's easy. I don't, because I'm still not super convinced when it comes to Chris Eubank Jr. Like, I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. is world level. I mean, convince me if you can, but I don't think he's world level. So Liam Williams is a tough ask. If you're not a world level fighter, Liam Williams will ask you a lot of questions. And Liam Williams, you know, can do a gut check as well. He's a tough guy. He's got decent boxing ability. So it's going to be interesting, man. Very, very interesting. All right, what we got here? Let's round up. Tyson Fury views Joe Joyce as the biggest threat, says Warren. Warren's going to say that because Joe Joyce is with Frank Warren. Yeah, I don't know. But he might be right, by the way, because Joe Joyce, I think Joe Joyce has had such a year where we all now, like I've seen a lot of people that when they do their top 5 heavyweights, a lot of them have Joe Joyce above Dillian White. Now, I don't, because Dillian White's resume is a lot better, but I have to admit, if that fight was made tomorrow, I might lean towards Joe Joyce because it doesn't look like anything can fucking dent this kid. Honestly, it almost feels like you've got to have Wilder kind of power to dent him. And Dillian White hasn't got that power. Dillian White's got a great left hook, but I don't think he's got that kind of power. So I think it's been a good year for Joe. And he might just be the biggest threat. He might. He's a big guy. He's a tough guy. His feet are very slow, but he doesn't stop, does he? I mean, for 12 rounds, he does not stop. That Carlos Takam fight was strange because Carlos Takam was winning the fight, but I always knew Joe Joyce was going to win the war. And that's what Joe Joyce brings to the table. So, yeah. Timothy Bradley believes Joshua's confidence no longer the same. He's scared to get hit. Maybe that is the case. We'll see. Right, that's where, you know, a new trainer might be able to kind of work their magic with him. Not quite sure. Obviously, there has been these images of him with in the Canelo camp. Who knows? I have no idea what's going to happen next with AJ. What's going to happen next is AJ fights Usyk in March or April. But in terms of the training setup, I don't know. There are loads of rumors going around. People are messaging me that, Addy, what do you know? I don't know anything. All I know is I know something. I think there will be changes. Now, I don't know if that's going to be Rob McCracken's head that is gone or someone else within the camp. I do think there will be changes. There has to be changes. That's how it works. When a guy loses like that, everyone needs to be looked at. Everything needs to be looked at, everything. And again, this isn't just, on the Usyk performance. I thought the AJ that beat Ruiz, like he had to fight that way to beat Ruiz, but that was an interesting performance the second time round. I thought Pulev, there were problems in that fight as well. If you really go back and watch it was a good performance from AJ, but Pulev caused him some problems that, don't know, I think AJ of a couple of years prior to that will run through Pulev. So there's definitely some issues there, and maybe a fresh start will be good. I saw this announced today that Alan Babic will fight Eric Molina on the White Otto Volin undercard. Some people, it's weird. I don't know how people view Babic, but some of the names that have been mentioned that Alan Babic should be fighting, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, did you not watch Alan Babic's fight at Fight Camp against a relatively unknown fighter that was just big and strong? Babic has only had 8 professional fights. Like I think the problem with Babic is because he calls out Hrgovic, people seem to think he's ready for Hrgovic. Like, Eric Molina is the kind of level that he should be fighting at. Maybe not an Eric Molina in name, because I think we view Eric Molina in his recent loss over here against Fabio Wardley, although he's had a fight after that and won by knockout. But that kind of level he's at, unfortunately. I would be scared to go any higher than this with Babic for now, because Babic is a small heavyweight, and I don't know, man. I'm not convinced with Babic at all. I like him. I think he's a great character, great guy, but for all those people that are screaming, and I've seen some of the names people have said, and I'm like, what are you guys crazy? Like, he's not. I mean, he's not the second coming of anything. He's just a decent fighter. Again, maybe it's the way in which his character is, where people, for some reason, have started saying silly names, and I'm like, Eric Molina's where he's at. Like, that's kind of where he's at. I just hope that Eric Molina doesn't fall down when hit for the first time. Like Eric Molina just strikes me as a guy now that just wants to fight, take a payday, and then like almost very journeymanish now. He's starting to get to that journeyman territory. He might already be there. If he's coming to fight, then it's a good fight. If he's coming just to lay down after he gets whacked once, then yeah, it's not going to be great. This is good for boxing fans. Joseph Diaz saying, I'm going to fight Devin Haney in December, I promise. Looks like that fight will happen. Obviously, it was supposed to be Jojo Diaz versus Ryan Garcia. I just saw a picture of Ryan Garcia in surgery. Hopefully he comes back soon, right? I mean, remember he had that fight that was scheduled a few months ago and he pulled out because of, I think, citing mental health and depression. Now this, so that's a couple of fights now. We haven't seen him in the ring since Luke Campbell. When was that fight, by the way? It feels like that fight was ages ago. When was it? 2 secs. Was it this year? My memory of fights is really bad now. Luke Campbell, yeah, right, early this year, the 2nd of January. So yeah, it's been a while out. So he's not going to fight again this year. So yeah, he needs to kind of, and he had only 1 fight in 2020 as well, 2 fights in 2019. Just not active enough, but let's hope that he comes through well. So yeah, Jojo Diaz versus Devin Haney is a good fight. Yeah, let's see. Have we got anything else? There's something here about DeMarcus Corley. I don't even want to read it. In fact, I'm going to read it. DeMarcus Corley versus Cornell Hines tops October 29th card. What? DeMarcus Corley must be nearly 50. 47. What's he doing, man? What's happening? Why is DeMarcus Corley? Well, I know where he's fighting, but sad. 85 fights. Let me quickly have a look at DeMarcus Corley's recent record. I've got a feeling it's loss, but it might not be. I might have got it wrong. Like you ask people about DeMarcus Corley back in the day, and a lot of professional fighters say DeMarcus Corley gave me the hardest amount of work. Yeah, DeMarcus Corley's lost. Of his last 6, he's lost 5. It's a shame. It's a shame. There was a time when DeMarcus Corley was one dangerous motherfucker. Dangerous. Like, literally dangerous. That time, in and around, what we talking here, 98, maybe even a bit earlier, 97 to like 2004, 5. Boy, he will give you work. It's a shame seeing him now. All right, guys, that's it from me. Have a good night. It's coming up to 12 o'clock in the evening, or 12 o'clock, yeah, 12 o'clock in the evening. Time for me to go home and sleep. Peace and love.